Thank you so much for joining us again. My name is Lynn Jeffrey. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And welcome to this Foresight Talks webinar on building a futures community in China with Future Matters. It is November 30th here in the US. It is December 1st in Shanghai and other parts of the world. So we're in both places at once. We're in the past, present, and future all at the same time. I want to give you a brief piece of information about learning foresight with IFTF. For those of you who don't know much about us, what we do, IFTF is a nonprofit futures research and education organization. We've been around for 50 plus years, and we are here today to have a conversation with Lin Lin, Louis Zheng, and Bin Hu, and we're going to have time at the end for question and answer from you, all those questions that you wanted to know about what's happening with foresight in the futures field in China. Are there cultural differences? Are there different kinds of methods and practices? Anything that you want to know, our team is here to help you understand. So just briefly want to give you the overview and reminder that Foresight Essentials at IFTF is the part of the organization where we teach people how to think like futurists and how to practice foresight. We have classes for individuals. We have our flagship course, Foresight Essentials, which really prepares you to be a professional futurist, design futures and scenario building, which take you a little bit deeper. We have our courses on Coursera with Jane McGonigal, which are self-paced and self-guided, and you can take those anytime you want, of course, on the Coursera platform. And then we do a lot of trainings for organizations. All kinds of trainings, both small and large, innovation trainings, and basically building foresight capacity inside people's organizations. Just so you know what's upcoming in case you're interested, we have a new kind of a beginner class done by Jane McGonigal. We call it Fast Futures. It's 90 minutes, it's $99. It's really fun if you are interested in learning about futures for the first time, or if you want to get some new ideas about how to teach futures. That's a really fun one. And then we have our first in-person training coming up in February, and you can see the dates for our other trainings coming up there. We also have, in case you haven't seen them, all kinds of ways for you to keep learning about futures thinking and foresight. We have these webinars we do almost every month. We have Ask a Futurist webinars where you get to do a deep dive with an IFTF researcher. We have a Futures Buddy program where you can sign up to be paired up with someone else from around the world to talk about the future of anything. We have our monthly practitioner meetups where we really talk about the nuts and bolts of doing futures. And we have our monthly Foresight Essentials newsletter, all kinds of tips and tricks. So that's what we have for our resources. Just quickly with Zoom, I think everyone knows at this point, but not if you're not familiar with the Zoom platform, do put your questions into the chat. We'll be collecting those, and we will be doing question and answer after an interview between myself and the Future Matters folks, and try to make sure that you've selected everyone rather than hosts and panelists. So I am here to introduce Lin, Louis, and Bin. Lin is a researcher and innovation consultant. She has 13 years of experience decoding people and culture and business. She has a background in journalism, and she used to work for research companies and design innovation consultancies like Nielsen and Continuum. She's one of the founders of Future Matters. Bin Hu is working on challenges and opportunities and innovation in the innovation space. He also used to work for top trend research companies and design innovation consultancies like Idea Contour, Mintel, S-Point, and he has a business design master's degree from the Domus Academy in Italy. And Louis Zheng. Louis is an expert in identifying and analyzing weak signals and transforming them into innovation opportunities with a cross-cultural lens. He also, before founding Future Matters, worked for design consultancies and social innovation companies like Design Affairs and Make a Point. He has a design strategy master's degree from the California College of the Arts. So welcome, Louis, Bin, and Lynn. So happy to have you here. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to ask we're going to start the interview process. As I said, if there's something that you would like to ask that I haven't asked, put it into the chat and we will get to that toward the second half of this session. But maybe you three can start us off. And I'll let whoever wants to answer this answer it first. Give us a sense of what's the big picture of futures and the foresight field in China. How are people using futures and foresight in their professional lives, and how are they using it in their personal lives too, maybe?
Maybe I can first answer this question, and this is Bing. And I started my career 10 years ago, and as a brand strategist. But as 10 years ago, I think when I finding a job or a position like a trend researcher, and it's very hard to find one, because at that moment, like in China, like people are not familiar with about the trend research or trend studies in China, because most forecasting is based on the sales data, and it's not based on the weak signal. So that's why I think at that time, 10 years ago, I think it's still very niche area in China. But now, like in 5 or 6 years ago, I think people like in corporate wise, I think they are starting to open this kind of position, but most focus on the trend. I think the foresight concept in China is still a very early stage. I think in like 2 or 3 years ago, I think a little like Volkswagen or L'Oreal China, and also like Ford, they are starting to hunting talent in foresight area. But I think it's still like early stage, because in China, like we are still don't have the like a proper structure to or talent structure in this area. So I think it's a good start, but I think it still have time to cultivate this kind of culture to embrace the futures and foresight methodology in China. I think this one is from previous one is from the corporate wise. I think for the personal wise, I think there are a huge opportunity for the personal foresight in China, because now in China it's in the it's like in the stage like hyper fluid because of the urbanization. So I think everything is in the unstable state, like statute. So like it's especially for the younger generation, I think they are willing, because they already have the enjoy the material life, like rich material life, and their parents have already take the advantage of the past 20 or 30 years. So for their like early stage in the career life, I think they are especially to want to explore who they are and what's the hobbies, what's the passion about of themselves. So I think this stage for the personal wise, especially for the younger generations, they want to find what's the longer purpose for them. So I think the personal foresight have a huge opportunity, but we are still exploring the opportunities and what's the solutions for them in this space. Yeah, maybe Lynn and Lucy can add some.
Yeah, and I saw some big smiles from Lynn and Louis, a part of that. So yeah, please tell us what would you want to add to this?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting us, Lynn. And so maybe I'll give some standpoint from the academia perspective. So what we're, before this industry is growing, before this community is growing, there has to be the talent. And nowadays we see in China, especially in the top tier university like Tsinghua or Central Academy of Art in Beijing, this kind of design art schools, they're starting to launch some programs related to strategic foresight. For example, in these, it's called like ecological crisis management, or they're starting to do some academia conference called like Design Futures, such etc. So we are seeing from the academia, they're now getting more emphasizing on these methods. Why? Because we see this is closely driven by the government policy, because the government has shared a grand vision of the country, say in the 2035 or even later. And then, but how does that look like for the school, for the education institutions, for the future of talents? And then, I mean, for the academia, they're looking for more forward-looking method to help them to see in the future, to help them build their campus or build their talents. So that's we see there's a huge potential over there as well.
Thank you. Lynn, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I want to add one talking about the future and foresight, because time frame is very important. Louis said our government also have long-term plans, maybe like a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan. But so in that case, like personally or like for corporates, do we still need to look at the future? Yes. Why that? Because the market competition is so fierce in China. That's also explain why the innovation happens so fast in China as well. But when we're talking about future for companies in China, it's not talk about like 10 years or 20 years. It's more about maybe 3 to 5 years. Like a next generation product or category innovation, or maybe slightly for some kind, maybe 5 to 10 years, but mostly what the futures they care most is about 3 to 5 years that they can apply, like more applicable futures. So that's why people will confuse the idea about the trend and foresight. Always there are people asking us, what's the difference between trend and foresight? And we try to tell them, okay, foresight, it helps you to see the alternative futures, but trend maybe is based on the data and exploration to see more probable futures. So that we have a lot of like market education to do to tell us how we can apply foresight in different projects, in different process to achieve different results. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think this is for people in foresight all over the world, and many people have their own perspective on how they deal with the concept of trends, but it's always an important one. So tell us, I mean, thank you for that. That's really, really interesting. And give us a sense of what the three of you are building, given where the state of things are, the state of talent, the state of kind of more interest from academia, and the long-term plans of the government. What are you building, both with Future Matters as your consultancy and your Futurist Circle as your community, your WeChat community?
Okay, I'll echo to that. Actually, when Louis Bing and I met in 2018, we didn't know each other before, but there's like a special connection for us to connect us together, which is future studies. We're really passionate about it. That's why we try to initiate a community, both based on WeChat and also on offline activities, because our vision is try to promote future thinking in China, because we really think it's a very useful methodologies, both for corporates, for organizations, and for individuals. That's why we founded, we initiated the community first. We try to spread the idea, the vision of the future, and we try to connect practitioners to apply these methodologies, and we try to write content, release a report to create more inspirations for the mainstream. So we did different things to engage people in China, try to promote future thinking. But we always questioned, like, what's your business model? How can you survive on yourself? And also in China, if people try to evaluate whether you are successful is whether you make money or whether you make more impact. So I think business is one important dimension for us to see how we can apply our methodology in business world, whether people pay for it, whether people recognize your the value based on what you have done. So that's why we started Future Matters 2 years ago, because we want to apply this kind of methodologies in our business work, in innovation, so that people can see it, you can feel it. Oh, it's really practical, it's really useful. So that's our exploration in both entities. The community is more about to engaging people, to explore features together more widely, and to communicate with like futurists and also edgy organizations like you, so that we can build an environment to talk about future, to see in the future together. But Future Matters is more about business exploration. Yeah,
I like it.
If you talk about our ambition or our how to say vision, and being talk about personal futures, actually we previously in the Future Matters we really focus on the futurist, because we think futurist is most important to see the future. But now the whole environment in the whole environment, we feel that individuals are really care about that future and they want to contribute or co-create the future together. So that's why we have a special program called Future in Your Hand. So we encourage individuals to talk about the future. We empower them to think about future, so that we feel, they in someday they might shaping the future with us. Yeah, that's what we're doing now.
And maybe Future in Your Hand, is that through your WeChat group, Futurist Circle?
It's like art program. It's like inviting people to think about future, but using collages to create the future they want. So we conduct a lot of workshops. Maybe sometimes we have a theme like 2050, the future life, or like a 2030. Future of living. So we have different topics for the audience, and they can think about it with some keywords, and then they try to create the collage based on the keywords, and then they can share about their futures and connecting and like each person will create a collage to shape their personal future, and then they can share the collage together to connect at the collective future.
Very interesting. So let me just see if I've got this right. You have your Futurist Circle was where you began, the three of you, and you wanted to bring all kinds of professionals like yourselves, people who are in the innovation space, the UX space, the insight space, research, design. You wanted to bring those people together around futures methods and futures thinking. So you have that. And you create content for that, you create experiences for that community. And then you also have your Future Matters consultancy, which is sort of like to prove the use case and the value of the work. And so it's a really interesting model. The other thing I heard you say was that you're equally interested, it sounds like, in the professional application of foresight, but also in the personal application of foresight. Anything else that you, Louis or Bin, would like to add?
So, I want to add something regarding the profile of this community of Future Circle. There's, I would say, there's a people around us with like a similar interest background or from different industries. That's one layer. This is, I would say, like practitioners or future thinking enthusiasts. They want to apply this method into either their personal development or their career development. And meanwhile, we have the top layer, I would say, will be this think tank experts. These are the well-known and the professional futurists from all over the world across different industries and areas. So they can share this grand vision about different futures. And that can help us to bring us more inspirations to these change makers and practitioners. So that's the top layer. And there's a layer at the bottom will be the younger generations. like what Lynn said, why we launched this Future Enhanced program, because we're caring so much about the younger generation, how they care about the future, what's the future look like for them. So that's why we have this Future Enhanced, and also we have some mentorship program as well to support the younger working professionals or the college student to help them figure out the multiple possibilities for their own path to the future. With some schools, like school curriculum cooperation, and also some like these exhibitions as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Bien, anything you would want to add?
I think I can elaborate, echo Louis, because we have in the past 3 years we've already tried different kind of types activities to engage different kind of layer of people, like for the futures part, and we want to share their visions about the future, and we do a lot like interviews and also the webinar sharing, online sharing or offline sharing, or branch meetups, and also for the practitioner, and we engage them with some like a modular training section, and also we do some like topic-based workshops to do the future envisioning, and also we for the younger generation, we like as Louis said, we do the curriculums like a 1-day curriculum, a 1-day workshop, or the 30 hours like long programs for in the schools, and also we do some like the training for the teachers in the schools.
Wow. So
yeah.
But so is this part of the business model of Future Matters, is that you're doing both innovation work for large companies, but you're also doing curriculum development for schools, or is that completely separate and it's not really it's more like out of passion?
Yeah, for the future, for the curriculum development, I think we are doing like mostly for the as a futurist circle. Use the brand as but first for the Future Matters, if the corporate they want to the methodology training, and we will use Future Matters to do the training. Yeah, so for the school part, for the nonprofit part, I think we use a Future Circle as a brand.
I see. So you have a nonprofit and a for-profit side of Future Matters. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Really interesting. So I just love that you're doing so many different kinds of things. I'd love to hear from each of you, if you can pick one thing that you did in the last year, either something that you did to engage the community in an interesting way, or maybe it was a consulting project that you did. Of course, you don't need to tell us the client or anything like that, but I'd love to hear one concrete example of something that you really felt good about, or was inspiring, or like a new experiment that you did in the past year.
Yeah, in the past year, I think we did a lot of things. Yeah, maybe I share one piece, and this research is did from 2019, and continually when we did some observation during the past year, and it's called hobby and all interest shared community in China, because previously, in China, we are it's the social connection is based on the people you familiar with. But in the modern China, you see especially in the super big cities, people is based on the stranger society. So especially in younger generation, they are extend their exploration period, especially from the university and also the early stage of their career. So compare with the previous generation. So I think they are using this time or the gap years I call the gap. It's but it's not the same as a like a gap. The same concept in Western world. But we so called the gap period for them to exploration who are they are and what's the longer purpose for them, like by exploring their interest and all the hobbies. And so I think it's a trend, and also it's a long future for them to connect to people in the super big cities or super hyper fluid society, to connect with different kind of peoples with shared the same values or shared the same interests. As you know, like in China, when during our grow up, and we don't have that like that time and that resources to invest our time to explore our personal interests, especially especially after we have the job to work hard. But I think it's changed. I think in long term, I think we will have like during our development, our grow up, we have different kind of communities to join in, like to explore who we are and what's the values for ourselves. So I think based on this concept, we did a 1 year theme, because every year we will launch a year theme, like a theme of the year to explore, to have further explorations. So this year, and Louis, to extend this concept into the living space, I think that he will share more about this one.
Okay.
Yeah. So based on the idea of the future of the shared interest society, the topic, we figure out, okay, if the social relationship change, how does that gonna matter with our living in the future? And then this comes up with that project, the self-driven project is called the future of co-living in China. So that's one of the ongoing research project we're doing. So how we did that? So we are doing some, we call like global train safari. We went to different fields from a different, we think like a leading cities or country or village across the world, like Bangkok, like Copenhagen, Berlin, etc. And then we hear, okay, what are these people doing? What are these residents over there? And also the experts who are seeing the future of the living over there look like. And then we went back, and then we host different kind of community events, like future envisioning workshops, or expert talks or sharing roundtable talks, so that we come with the different ideas from these, either the real estate developers, the community leader, neighbors, and residents, and also like some academia scholars, to come up with the idea about what's the different scenarios look like, and then we put down that into a white paper that's in the planning, in the development. Yeah. So that's the whole process. We're starting from some research, and then we go back to do some synthesis based on the different kind of community activities over there to collect and synthesize the insights from the field. Yeah.
Really interesting. Just what is your theme for 2022?
The interest shared, this is 2022? Oh no, not yet. We have 21 theme.
So but maybe it's the secret. Maybe you don't want to quite share it yet, or you haven't decided. So how about you, Lynn? What is one experiment that you did or that was really inspiring to you over the past year?
I think it's about village train safari, because Louis said we did a lot of train safari, but previously, before the COVID-19, we did a lot in like fancy cities like Copenhagen, like Berlin, like Bangkok, because they have something leading in particular areas. But with the COVID-19, I think we cannot go anywhere, so we shift our attention in China, and we are thinking, which city will be the future? But then, like for cities like Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, we are so familiar because we did a lot of business travels. Then we are shifting our attention to the villages, because in China, rural revitalization is a very big strategy. And for some village, maybe I mentioned to you before, we have like a future village. So I explored two future villages, and they are I think they are in different development mode. And beyond that, there are so many communities or co-living practice happening in different village. So following Louis' research, I would also like to go to different villages to see how people are living their life. Besides the original people, original residents, there are young people who want to go back to their hometown, or there are people who work and study in the city but want to live a new life in the village. So we try to see how the life is going on there. And I mentioned to you about the Future in Your Hand program. So I bring this program also to the village. We conduct the Future Envisioning workshop in the Qingshan village and also in Tianyu village. Both are the future villages. And it's really exciting to see more and more people really want to go back to future and connect with future, connect with the nature. Sorry.
Connect with nature, right. So when you do those futuring envisioning workshops in those two villages, are you looking at 10 years ahead, or how far ahead are you? What does the future mean to you in those contexts?
It's more about their personal aspirations to the future. So I think it's more about 5 to 10 years, because like people, people always ask me, like, you go to a lot of village. When do you decide to go back to your village? I think, oh, not yet. I still need time, because if I want to go to the village, there need to be a community, and the building a community need time. So it takes time to gradually build a community, and then you feel, oh, it's ready to go back. But there's also another way of lifestyle, is we call the city rural dual life. So you can live in the city, but half of your time you can go to the village. So you can balance your lifestyle in both sides. It's not about either and all.
Yeah.
And also from the perspective of signal scanning about the future, I think nowadays it's becoming more and the village, the countryside, the rural area in China is becoming more and more important from this policy making, and also from this population shifting as well. And so as if you set up like your radar over there, you can capture maybe some early signals about the future. For example, maybe in the sustainability, or in the future of food or something else. So that's still like a beginning for us to get involved into this area. Yeah.
I see. Very interesting. Okay, I want to take to some of our questions from the chat, and thank you folks. And if you want, you can put others in here. So Kelly Evans is one of the folks who's leading Foresight at Salesforce. And she has a couple of questions. She first asked, how can other people get involved? Do you have a goal for global participation in any of your communities?
Currently most of our participants are in China, but because because Louis and Bing both have a study background in Italy or in US, so we have connections to people who study and work abroad. We don't like intentionally connect them, but it's naturally we attract them. So they are people who maybe study abroad or also part of our community. This is one side. On the other side, that we try to connect organizations in globally. For example, when I visit Palo Alto, I really want to meet you and visit IFTF. And also when we go to Copenhagen, we will visit CIFS, the Copenhagen Institute for the Future Studies. And we also visit some studios who are working on the futures design, like Bespoke. When we go to Berlin, we will visit Arab. They are doing foresight in the architecture. So we really want to connect globally for people who are exploring the future, to exchange our vision about future and experience how our practice and learnings and experiences. But because our attention, our time is limited, so from our work, we will focus on like business work. We'll still focus on China market, but for our community, for futurist circle, we really hope it's more global, because this helps us to see a bigger world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. So Lynn Sprugel asks, in your consultancy in Future Matters, do you find more companies wanting your assistance to help incorporate government plans into their company strategy, or in helping companies use foresight to assist with risk management strategy for a company?
Bing, do you want to answer to that?
Yeah, so far, like for the government policy making, I think we have, so far we don't have the credit or the door to go to in this area, because in this area, like it's mainly for the think tank or the state-owned think tank to do this kind of things.
Yeah.
I think so far we still focus on the corporate level, and also so far, I think for us, I think we have more based on our experience in different kind of innovation and the design consulting background. So we are mostly to assist the company to do the innovation part using the foresight and the future studies methodologies. So I think for the risk management strategy and also for the corporate business strategy and more macro level, I think so far we are still trying to dig this area, but so far I think we are most for the innovation part. I think it's in this part as we have still a lot opportunities to explore. So I think we want to firstly to build our credits in this part, and to prove this methodology can improve the category innovation instead of only the one product innovation. So I think in this way, and we want to make we can get more attention, and all the the corporate can treat it as a value to do other more macro level business strategy planning. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So give us a sense of how many other future oriented consultancies are there in China? Are you guys one of a handful? Are there these kinds of consultancies popping up in every major city? What's the landscape like for really futures consultancies?
So far, I think in research-wise, I think mostly are based on the trend research. So I think for the scenario planning, as this methodology is still a lack of the market in China. But I think trend research starting to emerge and booming in China. Based my standing, and we have China Youthology and mainly focus on the youth culture insight and the youth culture trend in China, and also we have and for the design wise, I think they are leverage the trend to do the product innovation or product design in China, and but for this I think it's some research especially culture insight research agency and some of the innovation or design consulting, they are embrace this kind of new methodology to bring this kind of methodology into their consulting process, but I think fully position themselves as a future consultancy. I think so far, I think it's not that clear so far. Yeah.
So you guys are really the only ones.
Yeah, and
but
there's a one signal to share. It's about nowadays we are seeing the design industry is bringing more and more attention to the futures.
Yes.
And we were invited a lot to the different design consultancies to give some talks and sharing some of the future
Good.
studies. So we
Good.
are seeing, people are getting interested. The industry is growing on this side. Yeah.
Mm.
Interesting.
Yes, also, like I want to add on that is because design thinking after several years market education, more and more companies have already accept this methodology and accept this term. So we try to help them to understand how foresight can be embedded into the design thinking process.
Yes.
To connect future thinking with design thinking. So it's like a more, how to say, using their language to step in. It's easier, it's slightly easier.
Yeah, I think that's very common. I mean, IFTF has been around for 50 years, and we saw the rise of design thinking with the D School and IDEO, generating some of the early texts but I think you're right. I mean, the market has embraced design thinking in a way that they simply haven't with futures thinking or foresight. And one easier route in is to connect foresight with the design thinking process, in the discovery phase or something like that. So I think that's quite common for us here in the US as well.
Yeah. So this year and just this month, and we are repositioning ourselves, to reorganize our consulting services. And we are, because we after 2 years exploration in future matters in the business world, I think we are trying to find a language and to easy for the client to understand, and both from their language in their corporate. So I think so far, like the insight part, like consumer-based insights.
Yeah,
I think we are very familiar with consumer-based insight. So if we are always trying to talk about the trend, foresight, scenario planning, I think it's too far away from their practical daily lives. So I think we are now trying to combine to set a tone, like we are combining the foresight with the insight together. And because the human centric insight is understanding the people's behaviors and their category related behaviors and attitudes. But for the foresight part or the trend part, and we want to build the context level understanding about the technology or the society shifts and also the population shifts, these kinds of things, to help them to understanding why the consumer behavior is how to say, like the drivers behind this kind, like all macro drivers behind these kind of micro consumer behavior changes.
Yeah, very familiar. So I want to talk a little bit about the rural side of things, because there's some interest from folks in the chat. And then Darren from Shanghai wants to know how to join in the future design community. So if you can put either a link to the WeChat group or your emails, actually, for everyone, if I can ask you guys to do that while we're talking, that would be great.
I will write that.
But I want to talk a little bit about the city safari, or the envisioning workshop in rural villages. It was, and Kendra, you're absolutely right. It is very interesting to think about rural areas as a place, a venue for collecting early signals, and especially what's happening in China right now, because there is a large focus of government policy for the next 5 years is rural revitalization. So they're putting a lot of attention and investment into lifting, especially poor villages out of poverty. And then there's also this trend of young people from the cities going to live there. And so Olivier was wondering if he had a question about your methodologies and the tools that you're using for your envisioning workshop in the rural villages. Are you using specific tools or methodologies? Are you developing them yourselves? How do you go about designing those processes?
Talking about the future envisioning workshop in village, actually the participants are different because we have people from the city called a new villager, and we also will invite the original resident to co-create together. That's why we try to put design the process less formal or less professional look, because they need to feel, oh, it's fun, it's an exercise. So when we did one future envisioning workshop in Qingshan village, first we work with the people who can do meditation. So we start our workshop with meditation to reflect your memories, your emotions, your ideas about village first. And then we think something more rational, like what attracts you to the village, what make you stay in the village, what do you aspire from the village life. And then because in the village, there are so many things for co-creation. You don't need to draw something or write down on some structure thinking. We ask them to go out to the village, to the village road. You can collect leaves, you can collect all the material you see in the village, and then we bring back to the room, and we, based on that, we co-create together with the materials, because it's more tangible, and each items from the nature can evoke or can speak for their own meanings and feelings. So in this way, their idea about future village life is more vivid and more tangible in this way. And another workshop I conducted in Tianyu village is because that happened during a low carbon festival in Tianyu village. So a lot of tourists or a lot of people who stay in the city travel to that village. So it's a different design because the audience is like more kids. Like I have maybe for the 10 attendees, maybe there are 3 families, and a few like are married without kids, a few are single people. So we try to design a flow that can work for everyone. So we prepare 9 white paper. Because in China, when we post on WeChat Moment, we need 9 photos, right? So using this kind of ideas, more like socially relevant, we design a 9 same size white paper, and I lay them on the table and ask each of them to write one drawer on this paper. So I will give them music, and this workshop happens in a village, original village's home yard. So it's the context is very village style, and then each one can build on each other's thinking or drawing to tell the story. After they finish 9 white paper drawings, we will ask them to describe their stories. And we ask them to do it like improvisational, because people like improvisational right now.
Improvisation,
so they connect all the story together, which is really interesting and fun.
So it sounds like those envisioning workshops really are for personal futures. And there was a question about how do you build community trust to get participation in these kinds of engagements. How did you go about getting the villagers, the new villagers and the old villagers, to participate in this kind of a workshop?
That's maybe I will share a little bit on that. I think it's for this bonding, for this trust. It's not about the workshop itself. It's about your idea is really trying to understand them and also help them to find out the futures for them with them together. So to be specific, for example, in the case of Qingshan Village, before we ran the workshop, we actually spent like a few days visiting the neighbors every day to listen to them and to talk to them, to understand what they're looking for and what's their expectation about this village, and what's their role, what's their kind of I would say community look like. So after these interviews, then we come up with this idea how we're going to run this workshop with this old and young new villagers together.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Really amazing. Okay, we're gonna just do a few minutes more, and there's some questions about, I want to have this, this I think is a, it is interesting in a place like China where you have a government which is so future focused and which creates a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan. And Bin, you talked about how Future Matters has not yet kind of built enough credit or reputation to be able to assist a state-owned enterprise in planning for the future, or to be involved maybe in policy making in some way. And so there's a question about, for you, especially as younger people kind of doing something new in China, how have you kind of navigated the establishment, the legacy organizations, the older generation with a different mindset? How have you guys done that over the past couple of years?
So I think like we are, because through these two brands like Future Circle and the Future Matters, and we are trying to build collaborators and the other consultancy or other communities network. So we are trying to, because our times and abilities is limited. So, and we are trying to use to leverage other people or other organizations' eyes to view, to catch the weak signals. So that's why we are trying to echo your question. Like we are trying to use different kind of communities to build the knowledge based on their communities or their people out there. So for example, to make it more clear, like we are for the villages or for the cultures and rural cultures in rural area, or the gentrification for the some part of the China rural area, and we are connect with a community called Zaochun Youxue. It's how to say, it's safari community to visit different kind of villages in China. So through their activities and through the connection engagement with these the community founder, so we can get more inspirations or the knowledge based on their travels in different cities, to villages. And also we have a very strong connection with Dayu Yingzao. It's how to say, it's a community building a brand or community in Shanghai. So they have different kind of projects ongoing in Shanghai to renovate the Shanghai older streets or the community or residential areas in China, in Shanghai. So we can through them activities to attend their activities or the communities to get a deeper understanding about what's the older generation or the young people who living in these areas, what's their thinking and what's their feelings and what's their future aspirations.
So, I mean, what I'm taking from this, and sorry, my room is getting very dark because the sun is going down here. What I'm taking from this is actually the real importance that you place on community building, on humans, on kind of social connections, and on you being part of lots of communities as a way to create to create that trust. So that's an awful lot of work. I mean, I appreciate how much attention and energy you have focused on that as a strategic choice. of how to spend your time. I think it's very smart. We're going to have one more question from Alexander. I think it's a great question, which is, how do you understand that concept of weak signals? And how do you detect them? And how do you interpret them? So he says, to specify the question, how do you work with the pure unpredicted future, not the future as an extrapolated present? I'm not quite sure I exactly understand what you mean by that. Alexander, do you want to come off mute and clarify that last question? Alexander, if maybe, oh, you're still on mute. There you go.
Yep. What I would like to specify, the most prediction about the future is a kind of future as an extrapolated present time, or extrapolated past time. And the real pure future is something really different. And what I feeling that the weak signals is one of the best way to find out a real future, which is exists now, but it's not visible.
Yeah. So I think, Alexander, you had another question about whether they use speculative fiction and poetry. And I think if I can, the question is around, how do you avoid just kind of starting from the trends of the present and moving to the future? How do you kind of jump beyond those and come to something which is much more speculative? And do weak signals help you do that?
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Sure. You've stumped them, Alexander.
I think that's a really good answer. I don't have I don't have an exact answer to this, but in my understanding, for the business level, for this future speculation, I think it's still far yet. But because it's hard to build the relevance with the business context at this moment. But from the community level, yes, we do this speculation. For example, we invite the sci-fi writers, and also to join us with like a movie screening night, and also to talk about their ideas, their books, about their future concept. So that I would say it's still more on the inspirational level, yeah, for us. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, I'm going to wrap us up. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining us. It was really, really interesting. You can connect with them through their email. If you're on WeChat, they can give you their WeChat, maybe perhaps invite you to the Futurist Circle. You know, all of your fans outside of China would love you to have a website so that we can go there, because that's the way we do things here. But I know it's a lot of work. I want to, just thank you. I think that you're also available for partnerships if people are interested. And I want to just say that in January, for those who are interested, we will be having our next talk will be with the amazing dancer, poet, spoken word, an educator, the vice president and artistic director of social impact at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, Mark Bathumi Joseph. We'll be talking about futures from his perspective. We don't have a final date for that. Look out for that. And thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day or evening where you are. Thank you, Bin. Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn.
All right, and this will be up on our website. We'll send you also the link to the recording. So thanks everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.